Hi everybody, it's Chad here with the assignment video for the last week, for week 11, and we kind of went over the in-betweening and traditional hand-drawn animation in class. So I'm going to go over how to finish in Maya the assignment and move from a pose test to a more finished test. So I'm just going to work on the section in here where he's walking or kind of hopping through, and it's a technique called layering, and it works well with certain kinds of animation. For a kind of a bouncing character, that it works pretty well. And what it is you layer on the curves or the animation one control at a time. So we're going to start with the base control, with the one that's giving us the most movement. And we go to our first frame, and we can do it all at a time. We can kind of go in here and we can turn on all the curves at once. And you can even just then begin to start to look and see how that works. And you can go in and adjust these curves. You want to make them smooth, just like we went over with the bouncing ball assignment. So this translate Z, that's going to be our movement forward. And you can see how that's now smooth. And now we're going to go and look at the translate Y, and we want to make these bounce a little bit. And at this point, with a layering approach, you don't have to make a key on every control and every channel. You can just put a key on one if you want. I tend to still make keys on every channel because it makes it a little easier, but you can always delete keys and add keys. So now you can see sort of made that bouncing pattern in the translate Y curve. Go back and look at it again. And now we'll go and check the translate Z or X. And here's where you could go in and start to smooth some things out. If you don't like having this many keys, you can go in and start to delete them. Once those curves are on, even if there's not a key there, it's still going to give you motion. So if you see a line that is connecting what we call your splines, your different keys, these dots are being connected by this sort of smooth line, then there's going to be motion filled in. If you've got it on everything on stepped, or that line like this, then there's just going to be that pose test. And I like to flatten out the last key so it gives you a nice slow in as it comes into that last frame. So again, you can kind of look that it's getting smoother and smoother. And then you can go in and do the same thing with the rotate curves. There's not a ton that I would smooth out in there, but I might here just to add a little bit of overlap. We talked about that to that rotate rotate Y. So by delaying the bounce of the curve a little bit, you can see that the sort of the apex happens here, and then the apex happens just a little bit later with the rotate Y. You get a little bit of overlap. All right, so now it's looking pretty good on that control. And now we can go to the next one up. And grab the curves here, and we can grab them all, put them on spline, and I'll put the last one to flat there. I'm just going to go ahead and do the rotate curves as well. And I'm only sort of in betweening this little section, so it's starting to feel pretty good. And now I'm going to go to the head. Now another way you can get overlap in a simple animation like this is to move these keys in time a couple of frames forward. So you can see how that sort of loosens up his head a little bit. Now it doesn't always work, but with simple animation like this, it works pretty well. So I'm going to show you the difference here if I move these back. It moves. It's again that idea that everything is moving at the same time, and we want them to overlap. We want them to offset. So I move those forward, and I get just a little bit bouncier feel. It's a real subtle thing, but usually works pretty well. All right, so now I can go through and grab my arms, turn those curves on, and now everything's starting to move very smoothly. And if I want, I can make some adjustments here. I might try getting a little bit of overlap in the arms there. See how that works. Gives a little bit more life. And so that's the layering approach. I feel pretty good about how that's working, and I don't think there's any animation on my fingers. If I wanted to, I could go in and start to add a little bit of overlap on some of those keys. Let's see how that would work. So I could do that with each of the fingers. Just quickly go through And just a little extra motion to those fingers. And I kind of do them separate like this instead of doing them all at once to get a better variety. If I do them all at once, they'll start to feel even, and just by doing them separately like this, I tend to get a better sense of variety, of individuality in the fingers, but they still are related to each other. So I've layered through the entire piece different animation on the different controls. I could still go in and do just a little bit more layering with that hand joint. And see, that starts to make that first finger kind of wiggle. So I don't like that much. Oh, I also haven't put the splines on. That may be a problem. But I still feel like it wiggles a little much. So I could either get rid of it, or I could do this thing here where I want to keep a little bit of it, but I want to shrink it down. So I'm going to scale that curve down to almost nothing. And that'll keep a little bit of looseness in there. But still keep it alive. So I still think that finger's moving around a little much. So I'm going to move that. Now the reason that's happening is because I'm scaling the scale curve. I don't want to do that, I just want to do the rotates. So that starts to feel better. And so it feels pretty good. I like how it's doing it. And now I'm going to do a Playblast again. Go to the option box and put in my new name. Make sure I know what window it's going to. And enter my name again. And make sure it's clicked on Save to File. And I Playblast it through. And now I've got my finished animation. So good luck to all of you who are doing it in Maya. And I can't wait to see your assignments for the last week of Level 1. Great job.